Hey, this is Joseph Mancuso, and today I'll be demonstrating how to set up really powerful API endpoints using the new official package Masonite entry that's going to be shipping with Masonite 1.5 in mid-April. So to get started, we have a really simple package here. If we just craft serve, this is going to be the setup for Masonite 1.5. So if we just hit this route, we'll see that we have Masonite 1.5 here. So the official package for making API endpoints is going to be Masonite entry. So we can pip install Masonite entry. Click enter and just let that run. I already have it installed, so I don't need that. So now we just need to add the service provider. So if we actually, before we do that, if we actually run craft, we'll see that we have our normal list of available commands. So let's go ahead and add our service provider. So you'll need to add Masonite entry right below your route provider here. So that'll be entry.providers.API provider. Okay. So now if we run craft, we should see we have a new command here, entry install and entry resource. We want to just run the entry install command. So let's run that. So craft entry install. All right, great. So what that did was it created a new controller under app, HTTP controllers, entry, API, and password grant controller. We'll use that controller later, or not, to grant tokens to our users through username and password. You don't need to do that, but that option is there for you. Also, what we did is we appended the routes file. So let's go to routes web, and we added this right here. What this does is it adds a couple of routes for token authentication. If you're not going to use token authentication, you could just delete that. Also, we appended the routes API. So if we do routes API, all it did was add this, resources. So what resources are is the API resource endpoint. So we'll create these resources, pass them into this list, and we could do all customization of our endpoints through these resources. So as an example, if we run craft again, you'll see that that craft resource, craft entry resource creates a new API resource. So let's run that, craft entry resource, and we'll call it, it's a user resource. Okay, that was created. Let's open that up. And you see we have a really simple resource here. We have a model is none, so we'll specify our model here. So let's say from app.user, import user. This is our default user model. And let's specify that there. And then let's head back over to our api.py and add that in. So from app http.resources.user resource import user resource. And we'll add that in there, and we'll instantiate it. That's it. So now let's go ahead and run our server, and let's head over to Postman. So Postman is a really good service. It's an application that lets you send APIs requests. So if we just go ahead and hit localhost 8000/API/users, you'll see that we have a blank array or blank list, and that's because we don't have any users. So let's actually look at our database real quick. So if we open that up, we can see our Masonite table. We have a user table, which again doesn't have any, but we need to pass a name, email, and password. And we have our tokens, which we'll use later. So let's go ahead and create a new user. So we need that name. We'll say Joseph, and email, which is email at, say, email.com, and our password, which we'll call root. So post that, it returns this. Now note that anytime that a password field is passed, Masonite entry will actually automatically decrypt it and then store that in the database. So let's go ahead and get our users here, and now we see we have one user. So now that we got our basic API set up, we can start customizing it a little bit. So now if you know that we probably don't want the password or the remember token, right? This is the session token. So we don't want these two fields in there. So what we can do is go to our user resource, and we could say, let's exclude the password and the remember token. Okay, so let's run that again. And let's get, and now you see those are gone. So now we only have the ID, the name, and the email. Really simple. And even if we create a new user, let's change this to, say, email 1, that no longer shows up either. So let's go back to our get. Now we have 2 users, simple. Now one last thing before we move on to token authentication. Say we want our user resource to only be read only, right? So read, and let's run that again. So we could read it, but if we try to create, say, email 2, we can't. It says it's an invalid URI. So we can specify what do we want this resource to do. We could say read, create. So now we could read, create, but we can't update or delete it. Now, it's probably not enough to keep your API open to all users, unauthenticated users. So a lot of the time you'll need token authentication, which is a basic authentication. You exchange usually username and password in exchange for a token, and that token can have various scopes or something like that. So let's go ahead and add token authentication to our resource. All you have to do is from entry.api.token authentication and import that class here. Now, if we actually hit that resource again, we'll see that an authentication token wasn't found, right? So it's adding token authentication is that simple. Now, out of the box, it's defaulted to password grant tokens. So you pass a username and password, and you get back a token. So in order to do that, we need to specify that this model actually has API tokens. So if we go to our app.user, we need to specify that this model has API tokens. So let's go from entry.api.models has API tokens, import that, and that's it. So now if we hit this resource, see again that the authentication token wasn't found. And even if we add a token, say that, it says we have an invalid authentication token. So we need to actually get a token. So what we do is we can specify it as localhost 8000/OAuth/token. Make that a post request. And we need to pass a username and a password. So the username in this case is going to be email. So we can say email@email.com, and the password is going to be root. So let's try that. And we got an internal server error. Now, that was deliberate. So if we look here, it says we don't have a CSRF token. So by default, Masonite protects all post requests with CSRF protection, excluding resources, which has its own type of authentication. So we need to open up our CSRF middleware and specify that OAuth token doesn't need CSRF protection, right? So we exempt this route from CSRF protection. So let's hit that again. And now we get back a token. So let's go back here and specify our token. We set our invalid authentication token if we passed in the wrong token. If we passed in the correct token, we'll see that we now have access. So token authentication is really simple. Now, in addition to token authentication, you might want to use, say, user permission scopes. So coming back to a resource, you might want to say that the scopes requires a user read scope. So unless a token has a user read scope, it won't actually have access to that. So let's go ahead and hit that route again. And you see that we have an incorrect permission scope. And that's because our token doesn't have any scope here. So to add that, we can go back to here, and we actually specify scopes as a space delimited set of scopes. So a user read, and let's say a user companies or something. So pass that in, we get back a new token. And if we check here, we now have new scopes here. And let's pass in this new token here. And now we have access. In addition to that, we could say this resource needs user information scope as well. And if we do that, we actually won't have access now. Because what this does is this resource needs a token with both of these scopes at a minimum. So if we specify instead of user companies, this is changed to information. We now have access to it again. Now the last thing I want to cover is relationships. So sometimes you want to specify you have relationships on a model and you want to add them to this resource. So let's go ahead and really quickly, let's add a relationship to our user model. So we'll do this in real time. Let's say from forwarder .orm import belongs to. We'll say define tokens. Now we just need to specify the model that we want to connect to this. So we'll just use the default OAuth token model for entry, right? Which is actually this table right here. So we'll create a relationship to this table. So do that as from entry API models .OAuth token. Now this could be any relationship that you want, but for demonstration purposes, I'll just use the relationship here. So let's head back to our user resource, and we can specify the relationships we want, and we want to specify the tokens relationship. Call that again, and now we have our tokens here. So any model that actually has a relationship will show up in the API. Now, also what we might want is we might not want to actually show the token. Maybe we just want the scopes. We probably don't want the user ID because that's kind of redundant. So what we could do is we can exclude relationship fields, which takes a dictionary. And which relationship do we want to specify? The tokens relationship here, which will be a list. We want to get rid of the user ID and the token. Great, now that's gone, and we just have the scope and the ID of the actual token. This alone will take you really far in building APIs. I hope you guys like it and find it useful. Thanks.